Hey everyone, this is Kevin from thechesswebsite.com, and today we're going to be looking at the Portuguese Gambit, which derives from the Scandinavian defense, which is e4, d5, and it comes from the accepted line. So the pawn takes here on d5, and then knight to f6. Now white can try to hold on to this material. There's reasons that many players don't want to. It can really mess up their entire structure if they do. So normally you'll see white just play a normal development move. That could be knight to f3. It could be d4, could be knight to c3, not really trying to hold on to the material, just trying to get more pieces involved into the game. But d4 is one of the more common responses that white has. Says, yeah, I don't care if you take here on d5, which is the most common response from black. And then knight to f3, get their light square bishop involved into the game, castle on the king's side. Things are pretty normal from whites, but black does not have to take here on d5. And that's what we're going to be going over. The Portuguese Gambit says, I don't want to take that material back. I'm okay being down to material. I just want active pieces. Bringing the bishop here to g4. Attacking the queen here on d1 is the plan. This plays very similar to the Icelandic Gambit. Have another video on that if you want to take a look. But it just says, yeah, I'm just giving up material here. I just want a lot of active pieces attacking my opponent, and I don't mind if they start to extend and only move their pawn. So if they're playing things like f3, I can just start to develop more and more of my pieces, and they're not moving any of their pieces on this back line. That's going to be a good thing for me. So there's a few variations that you could see from white after you play bishop to g4. We're going to go over all of them, but f3 is going to be one of them. You could see knight to f3, both of those blocking the queen right here, or another one would just be the knight coming to e2. Those all three are going to block the bishop. They could also play bishop to b5 check. Says, yeah, I'm going to ignore this right now. I'm going to attack your king. You have to do something about it. So those are the lines we're going to be going over. The first one, which I think is going to be the most common that you'll see, is going to be f3. Now from here, the bishop's going to come back to f5. You're not playing the Portuguese Gambit to bring your bishop back to d7 and retreat. You want to stick in there and have a very aggressive attack. So bishop to f5, and they have some options from here. They could look at it and say, okay, I'm up material here, so I want to hold on to some. This d5 pawn, maybe now, since their pawn's under attack on c2, they bring it up to c4. Really trying to control the pawn structure here on the queen side of the board. This is going to be completely okay, but you have to recognize that the point of this opening is to get more material involved. You may have to give up even more to accomplish that, meaning the best move for black here is to play e6, saying, yeah, you can take more material. Now, they don't have to take material. If they eventually say, okay, I don't want to extend even more, they could play knight to c3 here, and then you can exchange. So maybe pawn takes. If they take, you take with your knights. If they want to take, that's completely fine. If they castle on the king's side, they don't have as strong as king side safety as you would. Once you get your dark square bishop involved into the game, castle on the king side. You can even castle on the queen side, depending on what the board state looks like. If they don't take that pawn, maybe you take here on d5, and then they want to push on the king side of the board. Your bishop can easily come back here, and you can see they've completely extended on the king side of the board. Their queen side, everything is just wide open. You're going to be attacking very, very freely, while you could be playing moves like bishop to b4, pinning down their knight, castle on the king side. You can have a very good board state. Now, if we come back a little bit more and say, what if they don't play their knight to c3? What if they continue to gobble up material? That's fine. If they take here, recognize you're not going to be taking this material back. That's not the name of the game. You want to get more material involved into the game. So they take material, say, great, I'm going to play knight to c6. Now, if they take here on f7, then your king is going to recapture here on f7. You have to, you're in check. So now at this point, you do need to do something. But if you look at this setup right here, white's definitely up in material. No question about it. Up 2 pawns, and king doesn't have a ton of safety. I mean, he can't castle on either side of the board. But if you look at it, white has not moved any of his pieces here. Black, on the other hand, has 2 knights in the center of the board, attacking a lot of material. The knight and the queen are attacking this pawn here on d4. The bishop can easily get involved into the game. How does white really continue here with knowing that they're up material, but they can't really attack anything, and they're going to be playing defense in some regards? So maybe they play d5. Say, yeah, I need to attack some material here. This sets up a pawn chain here. Well, black can continue to get more material involved into the game, can play bishop to c5. What's nice about this is, while this pawn's attacking the knight, the pawn can't actually take this knight here on c6. I mean, it can, but then black has the nice move of bishop to f2. Now, if the king takes here, we can obviously see the queen's going to take here on d1. That's going to be bad for white. But even if he doesn't, if he comes up to e2, well, then the rook's going to swing over to e8, check, and then there's nothing else they can do here. If they bring their bishop, they're just going to lose that because the rook can come down here. They could take with their bishop. They have some couple options here. But the king pretty much has to take here on f2, and then the queen is going to fall. So if we come back and say, yes, the bishop comes up here to c5. Now both the bishops are involved into the game. How does white really continue from here? There's not a lot of good options for white. If they try something like bishop to e2, just getting something in front of their king so that maybe later on they can castle on the king side, you're going to be playing knight to d4. Yes, your your knight was being attacked, so you can just come here. Great little outpost here that they can't do much about. Their knight can't come to f3 or e2, so it's kind of stuck here. No good options for white. Now, they don't have to play d5, but depending on where they go, you're going to be able to attack because you have so much material. They're going to be moving one piece at a time, and then you can just tee off on whatever piece that they move. So that's what's going to happen if they decide to come a little further, attack here on f7, and you recapture with your king. Now, they don't have to play c4. If instead of playing c4, they play something like g4. This is, we talked about before, they're extending quite a bit on the king side of the board. I would just come back to g6. You still want to keep this bishop involved into the game. You don't want to retreat to something like d7. Now, if they play c4, it's going to be very similar as before. You're going to play e6, same as we just talked about. One thing is, if you see h4, because maybe they just completely say, okay, got to go all in on the king side of the board, you do need to stop that. So be looking for h5 here. You're probably not going to be castling on the king side of the board yourself, but you do need to stop that. Now, if they decide to attack, maybe bishop to b5 check. In this case, just go ahead and play c6. If they want to exchange, I would first recapture with your knight here. If they want to take here, that's going to be completely fine. You can see black has a pretty good setup here. It's going to be very easy to play e6 or e5. Bring your dark square bishop involved into the game, castle on the king side. If you look from white's perspective, he has 3 moves at least before he can castle on the queen side. Black, on the other hand, he can easily move his rook here to b8. He has his bishop here on g6, looking to attack here on the queen side of the board. So white's going to be struggling to find a lot of defense, while black has a good setup already. If we come back to the beginning here after bishop g4, you could see knight f3. This is a pretty common move. It does stop the threat here with the bishop attacking the queen. In this case, go ahead and take with your queen on d5. You want to get more material involved into the game. That is our strategy in the Portuguese Gambit. So you could take with your knight, but I recommend with your queen. But this does generally lead to knight to c3. It's getting more material involved for white, attacking the queen, and then just bring your queen over here to f5. You don't just want to retreat, bring it back here to d8. That's no fun. That's not the reason why you're playing this opening in the first place. But not too many variations to go over, just because you will see knight to c3 like 90+% of the time. Now, if we don't see knight to c3, another pretty common opening is bishop to b5. This is check. It's forcing black to do something here. And I recommend just c6. We've seen this in the other variations. It puts white to the test here. Both their queen's under attack and the bishop's under attack. So what do? If we start to attack right here with the pawn, then I would recommend taking with the knight. If you take their queen up here, then they can just play their pawn down here. They're going to take our queen and check our king. So don't recommend that. Just go ahead and take with your knight. If they take with their bishop, we recapture with their pawn. That's completely fine. Now, if they play knight to f3, black has a nice little move of pawn to c5, and it kind of looks right off the bat of like, hey, why would you do this? You're just giving up some material here, because after the pawn, then the queen can take here on d1. After the king takes, then we have e5. Now, why is this important? Because this knight's being pinned down to the king. This knight cannot move here. This also opens up the door for the bishop here on f8 to take back this material. So this knight's going to be under attack here. So one of two things is going to happen. One is this king is going to move. There's going to be a knight maybe coming here to d2, trying to hold on to this material. Pawn comes up here to e4. This knight's going to fall. If not, though, then the bishop can just take here on c5, and black has a pretty good game. Now, all in all, if they play bishop to b5, that's one of the better options that they have. So I wouldn't say that's necessarily a great thing for black. A lot of the attacking lines that you want to be playing, you're not going to get to if they play bishop to b5. You're going to be giving up a lot of material, especially with the exchange. Not going to be as exciting, but you have to be aware that they could definitely play bishop to b5. Last variation that I'll go over is one that's not very exciting, but you could see knight to e2. In this case, same as if they brought their knight to f3. I just go ahead and bring my queen, take it here on d5. They're probably going to be playing c3. But the key difference here is, in this example, I would not play queen to f5. And this is one of the reasons that you may see the knight to e2 is they're really baiting black to come here to f5. Because it seems pretty logical, but the key difference is that because the knight's not on f3, then the pawn can come to f3. And then once the bishop comes back here to h5, there's no other royal square here, then the knight can come to g3. And this is attacking both the bishop and the queen here, and this is just not a good spot for black. So because of that, I would just recommend your queen coming over here to a5. This is pinning down the knight to the king here. Still keeps it very aggressive, not coming back here to d8 as some players may do. Your bishop still pinning down at their knight here. Now the knight coming to e2 does open up the door for f3 to come later on, but that's going to be completely fine. You can always just bring your bishop back to f5 as we've talked about. So that is the Portuguese Gambit. Definitely recommend trying it out, especially if you play a lot of Scandinavian defense, which if you don't, always recommend trying it. You're going to see e5 or e4 from white so many times, and they just don't know how to respond when you play d5. So play d5. They usually are going to capture. Knight to f6. You have just so many options to play this. Let me know what you guys think. Also, if there's other openings you want me to cover, feel free to let me know. Best way to reach me is email thechesswebsite@gmail.com. Always looking for videos that you guys want to watch. But thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.